So I'm currently in my second master's in Sexuality Studies in San Francisco State, and I'm doing a qualitative analysis of Irish women who have undergone abortions in the UK, because our abortion is illegal in Ireland because we're horrible and barbaric like that. And a recurring theme was the representations of abortion and how Irish women didn't see abortion represented on screen a lot, and instead saw a lot of women running from abortion clinics. So that's the inspiration behind my paper. I also can't get the internet up on this computer, sorry. I'm technically inept. Yeah. Oh, here we go. Oh, perfect. Okay. So this is just a very brief clip.
At any time you're uncomfortable, they're sensitive in nature, so if at any time you're uncomfortable, you just let me know, okay? At what age were you when you first had intercourse?
13.
Okay. That's not unusual. Okay, and how many sexual partners would you say you've had from when you first began?
Maybe 20, 25.
Okay. Do you know which partner you were with at the time that you became pregnant? Okay. And is that partner supportive to you? No. Okay.
Show all of Blue Valentine, but a following scene shows the lead character entering the room where she's going to have the abortion and becomes incredibly emotionally distressed and leaves the abortion clinic running back into the arms of Ryan Gosling, which is not a bad person to run back into the arms to, but so. This scene extract, taken from the screenplay of Derek Cianfrance's 2010 film Blue Valentine, shows the lead character Cindy experiencing a pre-abortion interview before ultimately running from the abortion clinic into the arms of her new partner, Dean. Though a realistic portrayal of the questions women are asked before receiving an abortion, the decontextualized screenplay, free from location signifiers or emotional performances, has echoes of another type of screening interview, that between an immigration officer and a potential traveller. Where have you come from? What is the reason for your journey? Have you been here before? Have you been given permission to travel? The underlying notions of boundary crossing and boundary control can be felt in this interrogation of a woman's sexual history and the circumstances that led her to enter an abortion clinic. In this interpretation of abortion as a form of emotional travel, running from the procedure and the cold sterility of the interrogative clinic back into the warm, welcoming embrace of a lover who wants to start a family can thus be seen as returning home. A common cinematic trope that I argue has roots in gender concepts of home, travel, and deviancy. For women, travel has always been an act marked by ideas of gender, deviance, respectability, as it can be interpreted as an act of independence, mobility, and a figurative and literal move from what has traditionally been regarded as the woman's domain, the home. Historically associated with motherhood, family, domesticity, and traditional gender roles, home can become not just a physical location, but a landscape marred by social conventions and ideas of responsibility and respectability. Feminist scholars such as Yuri Vidal have noted that women who choose to embark on solo journeys have been labelled deviant, as they defy these socially constructed norms. A woman who enters an abortion clinic can thus be seen as taking both a physical and emotional journey, embodying the traits associated with women who leave the home, and crossing the social border between landscapes of respectability and deviance. This binary is reinforced by the representation of the abortion clinic on screen, as it is portrayed as a gateway between these landscapes of respectability and deviance. This boundary comes complete with border control in the form of supporting characters who remind women who enter the clinic of the social norms and conventions that associate women with pregnancy, motherhood, sexual purity, and selflessness. I argue that abortion clinics symbolise the final step of a descent into deviancy and note pop culture's preoccupation with showing women running from these clinics without having an abortion and what this trope signifies. By acknowledging abortion as a traversing of boundaries, questions arise regarding what women who undertake this journey are running away from, what they're moving towards, why they're persistently represented as running back home, and how these decisions are invariably accompanied by the cliched happy ending of heterosexual romantic success. Deviancy tourism, running from abortion clinics as a visual metaphor for heteronormative reassimilation. This examination of the abortion clinic, marking a boundary between landscapes of deviancy and respectability, can be easily seen in the representations of the abortion clinic on screen. Cinematic and televisual representations of abortion transport a woman's emotional journey when considering abortion into a visually legible journey, mapping her emotional process via a series of physical landscapes, where the abortion clinic represents the final resting point before permanently entering landscapes of deviancy. Symbolism used in the films Juno, Blue Valentine, and the television program Sex and the City. Women entering the abortion clinic only to have a last-minute change of heart and literally run from it has become an almost ubiquitous trope in cinema and television, a phenomenon that has been addressed by researchers at the University of California, San Francisco. Sisson and Kimport in 2014 undertook a quantitative analysis of abortion storylines in American television and film between 1916 and 2013, and found that the storylines differed from real-life statistics in significant ways. Since 1973, when abortion was legalized in the United States, the percentage of on-screen characters considering an abortion who go through with the procedure has fallen, while the number of procedures in the real world has actually increased. As leading women run from the abortion clinics on screen, the camera also runs away with them, running away from the stories of the women who stay. In Jason Reitman's 2007 film Juno, the titular character is presented as completely comfortable with her choice to terminate her pregnancy, initially ringing an abortion clinic and saying, "I'd like to procure a hasty abortion, please." However, her visit to the clinic is interrupted by an anti-choice protester, who informs her that her fetus probably already has fingernails. When Juno enters the clinic, the sounds and sensations of fingernails, both her own and those of the people around her, assault her. She panics, running from the abortion clinic in distress. She decides to go through with the pregnancy and put the child up for adoption, choosing an attractive, wealthy, white couple as the adoptive parents. Here, the abortion clinic and the protester become a site for a shift in Juno's ideology. Presented with information regarding the development of her fetus and presented with visual and sensory stimulation of the people around her, she begins to associate her embryo with personhood, rather than her previous conception of her embryo as a collection of cells and a problem to be dealt with. This scene demonstrates a shift from opposing sides of the abortion debate, evoking Christian Lucre's observation that the debate about abortion is a debate about personhood. Whether the embryo is considered a fetus or a baby is important because people, babies included, have inalienable rights. Perhaps the most inalienable right is the right to not have one's life ended except by due process of law. Lucre. Approaching the abortion clinic, Juno was moving towards an expression of her independent feminist ideology that deviates from social scripts regarding premarital sex, the role of woman as mother, and patriarchal controls over the female body. However, in running from the abortion clinic, Juno recoils from entering a form of deviancy that includes eliminating a life. And so in running away from it, she not only returns to life as a pregnant young woman, but she returns to this life with a transformed view of deviancy and her own capacity for it. That this new ideology supports heteronormative ideals of family, and her adoption plan actually aims to help form a nuclear family, shows that this is also a psychic return to the concept of home. Another film that presents a woman as running from an abortion clinic is Derek Cianfrance's 2010 drama Blue Valentine, where the lead character Cindy becomes pregnant by an abusive ex-boyfriend. A student with little financial security or independence, she decides to get an abortion, but becomes upset during the screening questionnaire, where she reveals her history of casual sex, which began when she was 13, a fact that draws comment, non-judgmental comment, but comment from the nurse on duty. She becomes increasingly distressed in the abortion clinic, changing her mind while on the doctor's table with her feet in stirrups. Again, her character is seen running from the abortion clinic, where she decides to keep the baby and start a family with her new partner. Here, the questioning of her sexual history prompts an emotional reaction, which could be interpreted as her re-evaluating her concept of sex as an act free from consequence. Addressing her sexual history is also a way of confronting her past iterations of deviancy, deviating from social scripts that condemn sexually active women, premarital sex, underage sex, and evaluating how these choices have impacted her life. By running from the abortion clinic and into the arms of her new partner who wants to start a family, she turns away from her past acts of deviancy and chooses to fully enter a landscape of heteronormativity, where the nuclear family represents respectability, commitment, and ideals of domestic happiness, ideals that were previously missing from her life. For Cindy, leaving the abortion clinic represents leaving a particular sexualized lifestyle that she has equated with unhappiness, and by returning to the warm embrace of her new partner, she sees herself as moving towards a happy and stable future with a family. Meanwhile, Sex and the City's 2001 episode, Coulda, Woulda, Shoulda, also depicted a woman though explicitly pro-choice and desirous of an abortion, changes her mind at the last second. Miranda, played by Cynthia Nixon, is consistently portrayed as pro-choice and distinctly against the idea of having a child. Upon learning that she has unexpectedly become pregnant, she loudly declares fuck and describes her emotional state as "I'm on the corner of 23rd and I'm in hell," before immediately declaring, "I'm not having it." However, Miranda's storyline is juxtaposed with that of her friend Charlotte, a woman desperate to get pregnant but physically unable to do so. Charlotte becomes a source of guilt and shame for Miranda, telling her, "I should have been so lucky to get pregnant by mistake," and asking, "How could you do this to me? You're not even going to consider having it." Miranda is steadfast about her decision to have an abortion and is admitted to a clinic, but begins to express doubts in the waiting room. Wondering if she will be able to have a baby later in life, she muses, "Oh my God, Carrie, is this my baby? I mean, what am I waiting for?" The final scene of the episode reveals that she's going to keep and raise the baby. Here, having an abortion would not only mean that Miranda deviates from the social script that states that women have a responsibility to have children while they are fertile, but an abortion would also mean that she's emotionally betrayed a friend. In each of these films, abortion is depicted as a site for ideological reevaluation. Each of the characters are given social prompts that propel them out of the abortion clinic and towards a more socially accepted act of having a baby. Though the characters are initially confident in their decision, the abortion clinic becomes the place where they recognise the limits of their transgression and literally run from this final frontier of deviance back to heteronormative ideals of family. Gatekeepers and border control, supporting characters and happiness scripts. In these three on-screen depictions of abortion clinics, the women are prompted to reconsider by a supporting character: the protester in Juno, the abortion clinic worker in Blue Valentine, Charlotte in Sex and the City. These interactions support Adler and Adler's theory that society members police each other's actions and reinforce social boundaries by participating in the confrontations which occur when persons who venture out to the edges of the group are met by policing agents whose special business is to guard the cultural integrity of the community. The three films' representation of influential supporting characters reinforce the idea that abortion involves a traversing of social boundaries, as these characters act as border control that works to prevent the women from crossing a social line. After the lead characters have been directly or indirectly influenced by these emotional border controls, they return from the abortion clinic to a rapturous welcome back to respectability. For Juno, this comes in the form of moral approval, as she is told by her protester that God appreciates your miracle, a direct response to her ideological and philosophical U-turn. Given Sex and the City's repeatedly stated emphasis on friendship and female solidarity over romantic relationships, Miranda's refusal to have an abortion and return to her community's social codes can be viewed in parallel to a return to her heteronormativity and family ideals. A parallel clearly seen when Charlotte learns that Miranda isn't having an abortion and ecstatically declares, "We're going to have a baby." Finally, Cindy runs from a space where she's reminded that her previous sexual and romantic relationships have not been lasting or supporting, into the arms of her new lover, who tightly embraces her and enthusiastically declares, "Let's do it. Let's be a family. Let's be a family." It becomes evident that just as women are discouraged from entering landscapes of deviancy, their transgression-free return to respectability is met with boundless encouragement, as well as an immediate reiteration of their community's values. While the romantic relationship in Blue Valentine ultimately falls apart, Cindy's love for her daughter is unwavering, and by leaving a dysfunctional relationship, she could still be seen as moving towards, rather than away from, ideals of happiness. Meanwhile, Juno and Miranda enjoy the traditional cliched cinematic happy ending, defined as finding heterosexual love and support in familial structures. Even while pregnant, both Miranda and Juno were resistant to entering a heteronormative relationship, and yet both were rewarded with a male romantic interest by the end of their relative arcs, a way of solving the problem of having their characters maintain the deviant position of being a single mother or a single sexually active young woman. This adherence to cliched cinematic tropes of happy endings that must involve heterosexual romantic partnering evokes Sarah Ahmed's happiness scripts, which can be thought of as straightening devices, ways of aligning bodies with what is already lined up. The points that accumulate as lines can be performatives, a point on a line that can be a demand to stay in line. Even though both Juno and Miranda deviate from gender and heteronormative ideals by having premarital sex and remaining single while pregnant, giving birth itself marked a point on traditional gender scripts which realigned them. By giving birth rather than aborting, they were reassimilated into respectability, before immediately hitting another straightening point, the heteronormative romance. As Ahmed notes, heterosexual romance comes to represent what life is aimed toward as being what gives life direction or purpose, or what drives a story. It is difficult to separate out narratives as such from the reproduction of happy heterosexuality. These 2 points combined marked a lined road ushering these characters away from Landscapes of Deviancy and back to Landscapes of Respectability, where they were rewarded with a heterosexual romance. Bringing it home, conclusion. Mired as they are in reluctance, shame and stigma, the on-screen representation of abortion and the attitudes surrounding it echoes the real physical and emotional journey a woman must take to obtain an abortion, and the ways in which their journeys continue to be viewed by many as deviating from heteronormative, patriarchal and cultural ideas of gender and family. As abortion is seen defying traditional gender roles and heteronormativity, the abortion clinic thus becomes a gateway between these landscapes, and pop culture's preoccupation with showing women entering abortion clinics only to emerge without having an abortion and reaffirming their commitment to communities that are so ready to exile them can be interpreted as a considered promotion of socially constructed ideas of gender, respectability, and home. This reading thus opens many questions regarding representations of the abortion clinic on screen. By constantly returning to the image of women returning from abortion clinics and reaffirming their commitment to communities, film and television eschew the opportunity to explore abortion as part of a different journey. What would it mean to frame on-screen abortions as a road to happiness, empowerment, liberation, or an entry into a new, unconditionally accepting landscape? Would these representations have to arise from an understanding of abortion outside of the framework of transgression and deviancy, or are they initiated? Can existing boundaries between respectability and deviancy be erased, or do we need to create groundbreaking new maps? Thank you.